Does the loan forgiveness process need to be simplified anymore? For example, I know there's some members of Congress that have suggested perhaps even forgiving all the loans under $150,000, for example. I'm not saying that we should or shouldn't do that, but I'd love to hear your kind of thoughts about it. I've heard a lot of concerns from folks out there about how complicated the forgiveness process can be. If you could talk a little about that.
Well, we look forward to working with this committee and the Senate Small Business Committee to simplify the process. There were provisions in the existing act that made it complicated. We tried to issue as much guidance as we could. I know one of the things we'll talk about is, should we just have forgiveness for all the small loans? I think that's something we should consider. We should obviously make sure there's some fraud protection, but we look forward to working with this committee and others.
Thank you. As you know, at this point, there's approximately $130 billion that's still in the PPP program. So everyone's talking about, so what do we do with that? Do we reduce the number of employees eligible from, say, 500 down to 100, or do we stick with what we have? Do we do a second PPP? And I know these are negotiations that everyone is having now, including the administration, the House, the Senate, this committee, and others. What are your current thoughts about that?
The administration supports using the existing money and topping it up with some additional money, and that will be discussed, and allowing for a second payment to the businesses that are especially hard hit. And Chairwoman, let me just say, I was only giving examples of businesses. I didn't mean to any way imply that those are the only businesses that are hard hit. I think this time we need to have a revenue test and make sure that money is going to businesses that have significant revenue declines. That's something that Congress didn't have in the first provision. But make sure that the businesses that are especially hard hit, particularly small businesses, and put in certain safeguards. So some of the types of people we saw that took out loans, and I look forward to working with Congress. If Congress wants to put back in the conflict rules, we're more than happy to work with Congress. The administration supports, we will participate on the same basis of the House and the Senate.